scalability and robustness in Africa. In this and subsequent webinars, we'll see subject matter experts engage in various topics that stimulate the growth and development of the internet in Africa. Before we begin, kindly type in the chat section to let me know if you can hear me and where you are joining us. Okay, hello, Frank. Good. Am I loud and clear for the other participants as well? Thank you, Fanaja. Okay, that's good. We have greetings from Madagascar, South Africa, Botswana. Okay, we can continue. My name is Willy Manga. I am the Deployment Ops Engineer here at AFRINIC, and I will be your moderator in this session. On to some house rules first. I'm certain that most of us are familiar with the Zoom client application. However, I won't harm if we point out the key features on the platform that will make this session a much better experience. The user interface, all controls are at the bottom of the screen. These controls include the chat icons, raise hand icon, reactions, the poll, and the live transcription button. The Q&A section at the bottom of your screen can be used for any questions relating to this session. Feel free to type in your question as the presentation are ongoing. All questions on the floor will be read out and panelists will respond to all the questions. All delegates can share your comments regarding the webinar in the chat. For any other issues relating to the Zoom platform, like your connectivity or any other, please use the chat section and team members will assist. This webinar is in English and the session is recorded and simultaneously transmitted live on AFRINIC's YouTube page, where the recording will be archived for your reference. While there, be sure to hit follow. This year in 2024, we are trying real hard to level up everything we do, and the only thing we are ever going to ask is for you to hit follow on our social platforms. Thank you. Finally, this meeting shall abide by the AFRINIC Code of Conduct. Please be respectful as you engage with other participants on the webinar. The AFRINIC Code of Conduct and the event terms and conditions are all available on the AFRINIC website. Please take time to read these, and I will also post a link to the chat On our webinar today, we are privileged to have 4 panelists. Mr. Darwin Da Costa, who is the PDP co-chair at AFRINIC, Mr. Haitham El Natal, who is the senior expert at the National Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, that is NTRA of Egypt, Ms. Madhvi Gokul, who is senior IP resource specialist at AFRINIC, Mr. Brice Abba, who is the stakeholder development manager at AFRINIC, Mr. James Chiwa, who is the head of member services at AFRINIC, and Mr. Sean Ojidoji, who is the Deputy Director ICT at Federal University, Oye Ekiti. So I hope all of you will follow us gently. So let me allow then the opportunity to introduce. First of all, I'll start with Madhvi. Good afternoon, Madhvi.
Good afternoon, Rudy, and good afternoon to all the participants.
Okay. We start with you today. You start with and you present to us briefly what the PDP is all about.
Thank you, Willie. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Okay. If you switch to the presenter mode, it will be better.
Okay. Better now. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to have you join this webinar hosted by AFRINIC. And today we'll be talking about how we're doing a deep dive in AFRINIC policy development. We've had every year, we have a webinar around policy development, but briefly to give any newcomers to the AFRINIC policy development landscape, I will briefly go through what are resource policies, what is policy development process about at AFRINIC.
Maji, if you may, can you just change the display so that we view only your presentation?
Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, brief introduction of myself. I'm Madhvi Gokul. I've been with AFRINIC for 14 years now and have held different roles. Currently, I'm addressing to you as the policy liaison for the AFRINIC, for AFRINIC. So briefly, we'll go through an overview of the AFRINIC policy development process. And here we're talking about the goals of the Internet Registry System. These goals are shared across all the registry systems that we have, including the other RIRs. So uniqueness, okay, so public IP addresses should be unique. And usually each regional Internet registry manages a pool of public IP addresses, and there are no overlaps. So whatever IPs or Internet number resources that AFRINIC manages, it's their own. There's no duplicity on the Internet around those IPs. Registration, all the Internet number resources that AFRINIC issues are registered in a public database, the database that we call the WHOIS database. Aggregation, that's another goal, okay, so that the size of the routing tables are limited. Conservation, IP number resources are distributed to those parties who have demonstrated the need for them, and fairness in terms of we don't discriminate against type of organizations or size of organizations. Right. So what are the resource policies? So the resource policies are around Internet number resource policies, okay? These are guidelines that AFRINIC uses to manage, okay, how it allocates resources to those who come and request for it. And also they provide us guidelines around some of the services that AFRINIC offers as part of being the RIR. These resource policies are developed by the AFRINIC Internet community. And the other word for the Internet community that we can use here is the Policy Development Working Group, so that these words will be used interchangeably during this webinar. And these resource policies are developed through the AFRINIC policy development process. There are a number of steps. We'll go through them later in the presentation. And once they reach consensus and get ratified by the board, they are implemented by AFRINIC staff. Okay. These resource policies are applicable to any organization who are operating a network on the continent. We call them our resource members, and also to any organization that are operating networks in the AFRINIC service region, okay, and who may need public internet number resources. So these resource policies will also apply to them when they come and apply for membership and resources. The policy development process itself is a series of steps, okay, for proposing, deliberating, and adopting these policies, okay. It was drafted by members of the community and implemented by AFRINIC, okay, after it reached consensus within the AFRINIC community. So the AFRINIC policy development process is also a policy which has to go through the community in terms of proposing, discussing an agreement or consensus around the principles and steps of the process before AFRINIC can implement. And the policy development process, the current one that we have, has evolved from the one that was initially proposed in 2004, 2005, when AFRINIC was being set up, and has been a collaborative effort of the AFRINIC community and inclusive of our resource members and staff. So the principles that the policy development process adheres to is the bottom-up principle. Proposals are done from the community. It's not AFRINIC staff who will decide, oh, how shall AFRINIC manage its resources today. So it is the bottom-up from the community. There's an openness in the policy development. Okay, AFRINIC has had to set up certain systems, I would say, so that to guarantee the openness, anyone interested in developing policies or participating in the policy development can do so. It's transparent. Okay, transparency. All the policies or the discussions are documented and accessible. Okay, and also the last principle here is that there should be a fairness in the distribution of resources. So, in a high-level overview of the key steps, so usually a proposal based on a problem statement is crafted and shared with the community. The authors are individuals from the AFRINIC community. This proposal is then discussed, okay, on the mailing list, and then presented at a public policy meeting where there would be a determination of the co-chairs, the PDWG co-chairs will see whether there's consensus within the community on the proposal. The next step after that would be to send the report, if consensus has been reached, to send a report to the AFRINIC Board of Directors, who, upon ratification, will direct AFRINIC staff to implement the policy. And at the end of the policy implementation, that proposal is incorporated in what we call our policy manual, CPM. Okay, so the CPM, as the latest version, we have it online. You can also see the revision history of the document. It's got three main sections around IPv4, IPv6, and ASM. Section 3 documents the AFRINIC policy development process. And also we have other sections that covers service-related policies. Updates to the manual can only be done with new policies that are implemented. And we always recommend, or there's a scope for improvement of this consolidated policy manual to ensure readability, accuracy, and consistency. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll hand over to Willie now.
Thank you, Madvi. Thank you for that brief presentation of the PDP. I hope our participants are well now aware of what it's all about for those who are new, even for those who already know what is the PDP all about. But the most important, as you can imagine, is we have a series of policies that are built by the communities, and those policies help us then also to manage to know exactly how at AFRINIC should coordinate, manage, assign, allocate the resources to our members. So we then go deep dive into the PDP itself, and we'll start with Darwin Da Costa, who is the current PDP co-chair. So good morning, Darwin.
Hey, good morning, Willie. Good morning, everyone.
As a PDP co-chair, Darwin, please tell us more about your roles and responsibilities. What it's all about.
Oh yeah, I think it was very nice to hear the entire process that Madhvi just explained to the newcomers and also for the ones who are already with us for a couple of years. But basically, in my position, together with my co-chair colleague, Vincent Gundi, when we joined or where we were appointed by the community, one of the things we said we needed to do was to ensure that the community can discuss policy proposals in a proper manner, right? And also, which will lead at the end, giving us the ability to evaluate the submitted proposals in a properly timely manner, and ratify or not ratify a proposal that might be discussing within the working group. So eventually we needed some stability within the working group when we were appointed, and we managed to do so. But there is a lot more activity which come into play, like we need to determining whether there is consensus during the open policy discussions. We need to publish the minutes of the proceedings of the PPM, actually, when the public policy meetings happen. And also the initiation and termination of the final review of the proposals, which we call the last call, right? And last but not least, we need to send out a report on the outcomes of the policy discussions at the public policy meetings to the board of directors of AFRINIC. And so basically, that's what we do in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. So I noticed that you have several roles, either during, let's say, before we have a current policy, when there is discussion, and when the discussion is over, be it on the mailing list or during what we call the PPM. Okay, thank you. Now,
Exactly.
Since we are talking about the different process and the different activities, as a PDP co-chair, what challenges do you encounter in managing discussion with the group, and how do you address them to maintain a fair and productive environment?
Oh, well, during this period, we encountered a lot of challenges, which is good to have, right? Because we only can have a better process if we encounter challenges to make some changes and adapt into what the working group wants, right? We shouldn't forget that this is a top-down approach, right? And we are always keen to listen to what the community has to say. But it's important also for the newcomers and the ones who are already with us for a couple of years now. It's important for them to understand RFC 7282, right? Because we might have a large group discussing a unique or specific policy proposal, but it's not the number of people saying, yes, we agree and this should be implemented, that we as co-chairs will looking into the largest group, which is screaming yes, right? So we need to look into different angles. That's, part of one of our challenges, because we need to make sure that all the discussed points are addressing a problem statement within a single policy proposal, right? So this is mainly one of the things we do, right? So we listen what the working group has to say. We gather various comments from different angles. We do work closely with the PLT team, just to make sure that all the problem statements have been addressed within a policy proposal. And then eventually, before we announce consensus or raw consensus, or that the policy has to go back to the working group for further discussions, we need to look into all these different angles before we make any kind of decisions.
Okay, thank you, Darwin. Before I continue with you, I will also ask to Item. Item, from your perspective, as someone who has proposed a policy, how do you view the roles of AFRINIC policies in shaping regional internet governance?
Okay, well, it's a smart question, really, and I think it could take the time of this webinar. But in brief, let's agree that without internet resources such as IPs and autonomous system, there will not be internet access for African countries. And without policies that govern the allocation of these resources, we can't protect it from leakage and or can't reach better internet accessibility and affordability. Let me give you an example. Policies such as address allocation for internet exchanges, this policy secure a portion of IP version 4 for any internet exchange that will be built in Africa during the IP version 4 depletion phase. Another important policy is policy for RPKI and autonomous system 0, the use of autonomous system 0 to protect resources of AFRINIC and any other routing resources for members. Autonomous system numbers for ISPs without multi-homing that help many internet service provider in Africa to get autonomous system number to peer in internet exchange without needing to be multi-home and pay a lot of money for international gateways. Another policies such as LMDNS and IPv version 4 soft landing, and that help in deploying IP version 6 in African countries. Such policies and others help in shaping and governing the internet in Africa to avoid, for example, internet fragmentation, secure resources for universal access, and overcome the digital divide between African countries, developing African countries and the developed countries in other regions. So AFRINIC policies has a big role in shaping the regional internet governance.
Okay, thank you, Item. Now, speaking about the challenges, I just asked to Darwin. So now, what are some common challenges faced by the regulatory bodies like the one in Egypt, NTRA, in aligning national policies with regional internet governance frameworks? And how can the collaboration between organizations like AFRINIC mitigate these challenges, according to you?
Okay, well, it's for me or for...
No, that's for you, Item. That's for you, Item. Because we are talking about the challenges, and yes, that's for you.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Actually, it's another perfect question. Let me give you an example regarding regional frameworks that we are working on it right now. African Union is developing many frameworks for internet governance and data protection and data flow among African countries, as you may know. such as the current one for free cross-border transfer of data among African countries to keep local traffic inside Africa. For regulators and for Ministry of Communications to align with such frameworks, each African country should has at least one internet exchange point inside the country. Then, after connecting to keep their local traffic local inside the country, then we need to connect, or African countries need to connect these internet exchange points together to keep local traffic inside Africa. So to align with such regional internet governance framework, AFRINIC is helping in many ways, such as provisioning the required resources for internet exchange points. AFRINIC is partnering with African Union in Access program to help in building internet exchange points in African countries. AFRINIC is providing a copy of any cast root server to be hosted in internet exchange point. It's for free, and as well, adding to all of this, the problem or the challenge we all face in Africa of depletion of IP version 4. AFRINIC is helping by providing IP version 6 training sessions, whether online or inside the country, for a technical team of internet service provider that help in training technical teams on the transition techniques to IP version 6 to face the challenge of depletion of IP version 4. So AFRINIC is helping more in mitigating such challenges we face on regional frameworks.
Okay, thank you, Aitan. I see. I think several regulators will benefit of the policies, and also even the policies can benefit from the experience of the regulators. I will thank you so much. I will continue with Sean. Sean, what are some key considerations for academic institutions when engaging with AFRINIC policies development process, and how can they contribute meaningfully to discussions?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I think for academias, so this is it. For academias, there is for the academic community, there is a technical side of the academic community, and there is the academic category within the academic community. Because for me, for instance, I work in the technical side of the in the universities, and for the technical side, I think some of the considerations, a lot of the technical side are actually already participating in AFRINIC. Some of them, majority of them, I think we have lower participation from the academic side.
Okay.
For the universities and the institutions. So one of the things that they consider is, I mean, I've spoken to some of them. One of the things they consider is, can they bring out a research? Will it add to their doctorate degree processes? Can they use it as a paper submission? Those kind of things. That is one of the things, some of the things that they want to see whether their work or the policies, if they submit at AFRINIC, whether it will actually form part of what will actually get them to PhD level, to professorial level, and things like that. That is on the academia. That's the typical reasoning of an academia. However, there is also the aspect of, I'm an academia. Do I actually fit in? So there's that aspect of fitting in the technical discussions of course, policy discussions at AFRINIC. or at other IRs as well. So I think we need to also continue to let them know that you don't need to be a technical person per se. You don't need to be technical to be able to participate in the AFRINIC policy process, which is what I usually tell them. It is important for them to know that it's not only technical people that can participate within the AFRINIC process. And the other thing that I think I need to also mention is that good thing is AFRINIC is online. I mean, most of the, whenever AFRINIC does its face-to-face meetings, there is also the online part of it. It's unfortunate that we've not been able to have policy development, PPM in recent times. I hope that that will change in near future. So when that happens, people are now more exposed to online, okay, especially in the universities, in the institutions where I am now. Thanks to COVID, institutions have now improved their online presence. They've improved the virtual participation capacities just to be able to meet the need of the students in their institutions. So I guess online participation from institutions will improve as Africa starts the PPM in near future. So some of the considerations is, the other consideration is when institutions apply for resource, do they get it? Are they able to get it? And will they get the resource in due time and things like that? But that is actually not a policy thing entirely, but it's also administrative aspect of the whole process. And I think I've covered a couple of them like that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just for you, another quick question, Shen. From your perspective, you talk about the individual, but now when we focus only on the institution, from your perspective, what role do universities and research institutions play in shaping internet governance policies, and how can they collaborate with AFRINIC to address emerging challenges?
Okay, research institutions are actually, they are ready-made kind of community. It's a community on its own that is actually ready. I mean, that is actually always evolving. So that can serve as a data source. They can be a source of research work for AFRINIC when it comes to certain areas of emerging technologies and so on and so forth. They can serve as a data source. So I also think that I know that AFRINIC has collaborated with institutions in the past. I think that needs to improve. The collaboration of AFRINIC and research education networks, which we call the RENs, needs to also continue, and of course needs to improve. Now we have not just regional RENs, there are national RENs, and of course there are also sub-national RENs, that is research education network within the country, within certain regions in the country. So some of those AFRINIC needs to also then go to, reach out to those RENs at national level and try to also see how they can collaborate with them. And of course, I'm saying AFRINIC should be doing this, but again, if there are research education network on this call, I would also encourage them to also reach out to AFRINIC, because AFRINIC can only reach so few. But if you can reach out to them, I'm sure that they will be willing to, they should be willing to collaborate and of course participate, especially in the aspect of some of this. I'm looking for a time that where AFRINIC as a regional internet registry will be a topic or a subject within the curriculum of students or in the institutions, so that at least when they teach a particular course, they get to mention AFRINIC, and students get to understand what AFRINIC is, and they can also participate in the processes of AFRINIC. There was a time that I was doing, I was teaching one course called the General Studies in my institution. I usually use the opportunity to actually talk about AFRINIC in such session. So that is the aspect of collaboration, is improving awareness, providing research data that could actually better inform policymakers within AFRINIC to write better policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I also take these opportunities for those who are working in the academia field. In the current in the current policies, section 6.6, we say that we have the assignments for internet experiments, whereby organizations often require deployment tests for new internet services and technologies. So this requires numbering resource for the duration of the test. So actually, the policy goal of resource conservation is of reduced importance when resources are issued on a temporary basis. So the most important is for you to know people work in universities and doing researches. You have the ability to do some experiments. So you can come to AFRINIC, and if you follow the rule, the CPM, especially the one regarding the internet experiment, you can be assigned some resources to perform your own experiment. So thank you again, Sean. I'll go back to Darwin, and I'll ask you, Darwin, how does AFRINIC ensure the transparency and inclusivity in its policy development process? And what strategies have been effective in fostering collaboration among stakeholders with diverse interests, as you know from experience?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Willie. I was actually taking notes. I really pretty much like what you just mentioned about the universities, research, and so on and so forth. I think Sean also covered the very important points for the academic people sitting and listening to us today, because it's very important also to know that there is some resources which can be allocated to them on a temporary basis. And I just would like to rephrase that again, because I think it's very important for them to know as well. Going or jumping back into your question, I think we have three major pillars when it comes to the PDP, which is openness, transparency, and the bottom-up approach, which I touched bases in the beginning of my talks. But most importantly, on those three pillars is at least for us, for the co-chairs and to the PLT team, is definitely to keep transparency with the entire process. And why is that? We normally maintain the archives always available, for everybody, for newcomers or for the ones who are with us for a while now, just to go through what has been discussed within the mailing list and what they can expect within the next PPM, for instance, right? Because there is a lot that gets discussed, when it comes to policy proposals, and which can be seen publicly by any stakeholder which wants to engage into the current or past discussions, I would say. And yeah, I mean, those three pillars are again, those are, if we go or jump back into openness, anyone is free to contribute to the policy discussions as it should be. Transparency, the process, and all the discussions, again, are public available, and we keep archives of any kind of discussions. And the bottom up, the policies are developed by the community through the PDP, and this has been like this for years. And the bottom up approach is what we value as co-chairs, because we firstly really like to hear the community before we take any kind of decisions on any kind of policy proposals at the end of the day.
Yeah, thank you, Darwin. We are talking about the transparency. I'll go to Item. And Item, regarding in your experience, what strategies have been effective in promoting the stakeholder engagement and participation in policy development process, both at the national and regional levels, from your experience?
Thanks, Willie. Well, I think there are two important things. First is the translation translation of the policy abstract, at least, to different languages. As you may notice, for ICANN, they make a translation for different language. For African Union, they make a translation for different languages. So for the abstract of the policy proposal, we can, or AFRINIC may translate it at least for another language other than English, for French, for example, as about 40% of countries in Africa are speaking French or Francophone countries. And the other thing, in my point of view, is to send an email, including a brief of all policy under discussions, to all admin and technical contacts of all members in AFRINIC, because I'm sure not all technical and admin members are member in RPD list, mailing list. So if AFRINIC can send a brief periodically for admin and technical contact, administrator and technical contacts, and put an invitation for these members to participate in discussion on the mailing list or join the RPT if they are not, and participate in the BPM public policy meeting. It will increase the engagement of all stakeholders inside Africa. This from my point of view.
Okay, thank you, Aitan. I'll go back to Sean again. Now, for you, Sean, how can AFRINIC better support its member, especially those who may be new to the community, in understanding and engaging with the policy development process?
Okay, so thank you very much. I know in the past we used to have what, especially during the events, the face-to-face meetings, we used to have what you call the newcomer session. I think it's usually a fast track. It's usually a fast track to getting to understand AFRINIC and so on and so forth. I think that needs to continue. This webinar that we're doing right now that AFRINIC has organized is actually a very good initiative. It needs to continue even when AFRINIC start doing face-to-face. I think this needs to continue to support and of course help members understand how the policy development process works. And of course, one of the other things is that some people, if they go through the PDP discussions, it could be scary to them. Some of the discussions may actually seem like there's a war somewhere. So people who are new to that, who are not familiar with it, may get scared and not want to participate. So we need to remove that. We need to make the PDP also discussions to be much more friendly. And of course, we also need to make the people who are coming in to also understand that there are various diversities on the on the RPD list, and of course, we need to ensure that how do I put it? We need to ensure that all views are heard. But just that we need to say them in a polite manner and in a friendly manner. Item has mentioned something very key as well: the translation. Some participation language is actually a serious barrier. As you know, in our region, Africa, we have a lot of diversity when it comes to language. So AFRINIC needs to start exploring people's feedback in their own language and feed it into the RPD discussions. So there has to be a great way to get people in there. If possible, then feedback that information to people. I just want to be sure that I'm still being heard. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we
All right.
can
So
follow you.
that's it. Then of course capacity building needs to. I like to commend AFRINIC. In fact, even with all the challenges, they are still able to do the online and remote building, especially in the aspect of IPv6 deployment. I think it's a good thing that because it's support.
Yeah. Okay.
And fully.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Hello? Okay, thank you, Sean. We will continue. We talk about the language, and for instance, I know Darwin, for instance, you know, you work with a lot of guys in Angola where it's Portuguese, and I guess you can also relate on what Itam and Sean just said about that. So, and but I also to give more, I would say, incentive to people to start. Can you also share with us any experience or example of successful collaboration among stakeholders within AFRINIC community during the policy development process?
Yeah, thanks, Willie. I actually will cut that cake in two just to say that, well, when it comes to language, yes, definitely. I still can remember one of the NOGs we organized in Angola where Madvi was part of that. I think James was on in there. I can remember correctly, but I still can remember clearly the question that Madvi raised to the entire audience, which was, which of you guys do know how many policy proposals we are discussing currently at AFRINIC? And I still can remember that nobody knew about it, right? So there was a lack of one involvement, or secondly, that might be a language barrier, right? Portuguese, English, I mean, it's totally different things. But eventually, with the NOG, what we are trying to do is getting those guys more engaged. And also, on the other hand, is trying to bring people like Madvi, James, and others, and Bryce to Angola. Bryce didn't have the chance to go yet, but he will go to Angola and to do exactly what Sean said, which is actually capacity building, right? I mean, there is so much happening on our daily lives and everybody's busy with the daily activities, but we shouldn't forget, our own regional internet registry and where the IPs are coming from at the end of the day. So eventually I started with Angola only, but I'm trying to do more on my free time, spare time, with countries like Cape Verde, not so much yet in Mozambique, but yes, if there is a room for me to help them to get more engaged, I will do that together with AFRINIC, definitely. On the other hand, on your second question, Willie, I like to use a lot of use cases from past experience we had since we came up, and definitely we had a case, I think I remember one of the PPMs where, we had a similar policy proposal with very similar, problem statements. And what we did proactively, we identified the co-authors of those policy proposals. We engaged with them before we went to the PPM, and we said, hey guys, do you think, we think it's a good idea for you guys to engage, and try to have one single policy proposal instead of two, since the proper problem statements are very similar. Can you guys engage with each other and try to figure this out? And I mean, I think the co-authors liked the idea, and they eventually worked together, and I mean, eventually instead of us going through two different policy proposals, we only went through one, and which makes all the sense. I mean, at the end of the day, what we seek for is collaboration between the co-authors and the stakeholders within the RPT.
Okay, thank you, thank you a lot. And I hope, especially on your example regarding the NORCs, what we are trying to do, I think it's a good example for our audience to also replicate the same in their own community. Those who I would say are more versed in English, or I would say the language spoken and we use in most of the document at AFRINIC, it's good that at least those who have more experience can then also educate their own communities in their own language, so that It will then also help people maybe first of all understand the key concept, and then also have the courage to also themselves then read the PDP, the discussion, and why not even propose something later on. Thank you, Darwin. I will go to ITAM. ITAM, as they speed up the digitalization journey, the governments have become resource members and form part of the AFRINIC community. Are there any barriers preventing them from participating in the border-home framework of developing resource policies? You have to open your mic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Willie, for your question. Actually, there is no barrier preventing government representatives from participating in developing policies or discussing the policies, whether on mailing list or even in public policy meeting, face-to-face in public policy meeting. The issue is the ignorance of how to do it, and ignorance of their power as a community to change current policy or develop a new resource management policy. Or let me give you an example. Government representatives are participating in ITF meeting discussing papers, discussing new techniques, discussing whatever issues for ITF and IEEE as well, discussing proposals. The policy government representative go to ITU as well to discuss papers and issues related to telecom. So there is no barrier for them rather than the ignorance. So I think AFRINIC need to raise awareness and make sessions or events dedicated to government people or government sector. For example, Madvi and James, for sure, they know how many members at AFRINIC from government sector in Egypt, for example. So the AFRINIC can make a two-day session, whether online or in country here, for one day dedicated for government sector, inviting all members from government to raise their awareness and building capacity for government sector, and the other day could be for all resource members in Egypt or any other country. So we need to raise awareness and building capacity among AFRINIC members and AFRINIC community as a whole.
Okay. Thank you, Aitan. I note the fact that yes, members sometimes are ignorant of what they can do and the power they have, and I think it's very important for us at AFRINIC to let them know, to have that outreach towards our members, towards our community, to let them know that they can improve, they can participate, and it's open to everyone in the community.
Because they normally went to or go to IETF, IEEE, ITU and participate in discussing papers and proposals in these venues. So what's the reason behind not participating in AFRINIC? It's awareness, just awareness. You know, in my point of view.
Of course. Thank you for your own view, Aitan. Thank you very much. So we go now to we do two presentations from AFRINIC staff, and where you understand better some implication of the policies. We'll start with James. Good morning, good afternoon again, James. James, I recall, is the head of member services at AFRINIC. Good afternoon, James.
Good afternoon, Willie, and welcome everyone to the session, and thank you for being here. As introduced earlier, my name is James Chiro, head of the member services, My team is the team that is bestowed the responsibilities to assess those requesting for IP resources, and as we assess the eligibility as well as the compliance to these particular policies. So I'll take you through some of the experiences, but I think to touch a point on what most of the my previous colleagues who have just spoken, what they have really spoken about, I'll touch on the experience part mostly for resource members or any other party that is interested in IP resource governance policies. The important part is if members are not part of this conversation, are not part of the RPD, it introduces a problem for them because these policies directly impact them when it comes to requesting for resources or additional services. So your participation in this process actually frames the processes to be aligned in actually critical operational elements that probably may be overseen by if you don't engage in the aspect. So it is quite important to ensure that you are involved in framing these policies so that tomorrow when you are requesting for resources, you don't get to be surprised as to why you are not being given the particular resources you are looking for, or why you can't access these particular resources just because a certain policy has been implemented, but you never took part. So it is quite important to be a part of this session. Now,
James, can you,
sorry,
can you please change the view of your presentation, please?
Okay. Stop. Slide mode.
So in the meantime, I also remind the audience that you can ask all your questions. You have the Q&A section. Don't hesitate to ask your question. You send your question in your Q&A, and one of the panelists will be glad to assist and respond to your question. Thank you. James, you can go. It's okay now.
Thank you. All right. So moving on, I'll speak mostly on the experiences that we see as my team of IP analysts as we do assess the requests from members for different number resources, be it IPv4, IPv6, or autonomous system numbers. The policies are framed in a way where they are there to solve a particular problem, but also to enable certain kind of implementations. However, you all agree with me that technology is changing every day, and at some point, it's also even changing faster than these policies can catch up. In those instances, you notice that we do face challenges whereby somebody has a very valid technical implementation, but is simply not accommodated in a particular policy. So we bring these particular challenges forward to our community, especially the resource policy development process, so that they can find a workaround or either through implementation of a new policy or update to a previous policy, just to accommodate those kind of things. But also at the same thing is, like I said, the policy implementation may take longer than the needs of our members. So we come back to the policy development working group to give us guidance. So I'll just outline some of these kind of challenges that we face on a daily basis. So one of it is the evolution in the technology industry, where we find that things have changed and a valid request is, we are failing to find a way forward because the policy just doesn't cover it. Some other things may be policy oversights, whereby when the policy development process took place, certain other aspects were not included. And this is where inclusion of a lot of members comes in as an important element, because if a lot of members come in put together, different aspects will be put under consideration within that development process. So those are other challenges that we come across. I'll speak more when we move ahead with a little bit of clarity. The other element also is the consolidated policy manual that my colleague Madhvi spoke of earlier on. This is where you have a list of all the current active policies. However, with time, also certain text in that particular document becomes harder to understand, especially for those people who are just coming in and they don't have a lot of history of the discussions that took in the past during the development process. So that kind of lack of clarity also introduce a challenge because they are interpretations, or there may be different interpretations to that kind of text. So when that kind of things happens, we bring back these kind of issues so that they are looked into and we find a better way to make this document easy to grasp for anybody reading it. Also, another challenge with the text is conflicting sections. This is a living document, so it is updated over time with every new policy that comes in. So at some point, policies may come in and then they will talk about different conflicting statements. And it's not easy for somebody reading it. They may find two aspects that are talking two different things. And then it's a document that has to be determined on how best we can handle those differences by the community, the RPD mailing list community. So I'll elaborate more in the next, but also on the same, our purpose also at the end of the day with this particular experience report is usually to provide updates if we have any policy changes that have just been adopted. So let me go back now to the challenges or rather into details of these challenges that I was talking about. For instance, if we take the Consolidated Policy Manual section 5461, utilization threshold. As we speak right now, the current active section states that an LIR or an end user who wants to get additional resources should have used their resources up to 90%. So, but then for the challenges that we see, right, with the transition or the change in the technology needs, you find that certain other entities may have come and gotten a prefix, for instance, /24, and then realizes that once they deploy in one data center, they need a redundant data center. However, their usage is strictly now has probably gone up to, let's just say, 60%, and they can't justify the 90%, and it becomes a challenge because the policy itself is just clear 90% and no option for any other considerations. So but if you look at the technical part of it, this is a clear technical need, especially when those data centers are in different areas and then even using different service providers. They can't split that particular /24 because most providers will not accept anything less than that. And this is a globally accepted best common practice. Another thing may also be on the side of routing policies. Operators do undertake different routing policies based on their planning. So they may have used the prefix on a particular service or type of infrastructure and needs a different routing policy for another prefix. But if their usage hasn't gone past 90%, it becomes a challenge for us to move ahead with that kind of thing. So it's quite important that the community, the RPT community, gets to know of these challenges so that proper solutions can be implemented either by evolving the policy themselves. Another instance also could be geographical dispersion, where if we look at the continent the way it is, we have the different countries with different geographical features, mountains, rivers, etc. Some of these become technically challenging to implement a connected network across for a single service provider. So it kind of leads to disaggregation. And then if you are running a limited number of resources, you cannot be able to use the same range across these two different geographical areas. So while the technical need is very much sound, but it becomes a problem because the policy itself is a bit strict. So we need to kind of look into that particular situation as the community, the policy development community, and find mechanisms to make it worthwhile and easier to enhance the adaptability of our services. Another element also comes in, especially on the part of transfers. So as you are aware, resource transfers are enabled by CPM 5.7, but then in there, the policy only speaks about IPv4. And then IPv6 and ASNs are not. In as much as transfer policies may be in mindset that the resources probably are not being used, but you get to find different other scenarios where somebody wants to just pick everything and move and start afresh. So that kind of thing also becomes a problem. So it's another thing that has to be looked into. On the contrary, if it is a merger and acquisition, this doesn't bring any problem because that is on the basis of the actual usage of the resource. Now, mergers and acquisition always, on most of the times, entails that there's continuity of the service, and we don't want to interrupt that particular continuity. So through the guideline, which is separate from the policy section itself, that particular guideline enables us to be able to accommodate transfer of IPv4, IPv6, and autonomous system numbers. However, on the contrary, if you look at the IPv6, the transfer only section of the policy, it excludes IPv6 and ASNs. It only caters for IPv4, but in practice, it kind of introduces challenges in other scenarios. Registration. So as you recall, Madhvi's first slide spoke about the goals of the registry system, which is one of it is registration. So registration contains different levels. There's the registration part that us AFRINIC does when we give resources to members. And then there is the aspect of members registering their usage. Now, it gets interesting at that point when we get a query from other entities to say, I'm seeing my name being registered in your registry, but I'm not using that particular prefix. And then if you try to get the one who has registered or the ones we've issued the resources to, they probably also say, oh no, we are giving it to our registered customer. So for us, we don't have a clear mechanism because at one hand, we risk challenges from the one who feel aggrieved that their name is being used inappropriately. And then on the other side, we are under contract with the registrant of that particular aspect. So we also risk another element, but then we need some sort of guideline in a way that can help us mitigate that kind of situation and be able to have a clear and clean and factual registry system. But also on the other side is existence of stale records. Some may be long-time records that have just been there and the registrant didn't take time to remove them. Somebody may come to say, oh, this used to be me, but I'm no longer using it. So it always comes to that element where we need consensus on both sides, the one who registered it and the one, but the process is never easy. A guidance on that, on how best maybe it can be handled, it could be one of the key elements that could ease the life of the analyst in my team. So the other challenge also comes in as of this day is lack of the abuse contact. Most of you may be aware that we do have an abuse contact policy, but this particular policy is not mandatory. So we do have almost 90% of our members not registering the abuse contact in their resources appropriately. So this actually brings us at a very big disadvantage because there's a lot of malfeasant act happening in this internet ecosystem, or in the internet, on the internet itself, so to say. But then if we don't provide a proper mechanism for anybody who feel aggrieved or their system has been is receiving some of these abuse issues, it becomes harder for them to contact that particular entity. So it's important for us to have this particular abuse contact within our resources, but at this stage, we can't force anyone because of the way the policy is. This also brings us at a very big difference with other RIRs, because most of the RIRs have this implemented in full, and it solves very big problems, very big and realistic problems, which is unlike in our region. So a proper framed policy could be something that could also make our registry system much more effective in terms of countering these cybersecurity issues. We've also even had different conversations with a lot of security response teams within the region, and how they've demonstrated the need for that. A proper policy that helps in catering this kind of issues would be something that would be very well. At this moment, we try to encourage and educate the members to adopt the current abuse contact approach, but the traction still is not as what we would expect, and also what would be very beneficial to the global internet in terms of dealing with cybersecurity issues. So other challenges also include like the LEM derogation. Hightam mentioned about this particular policy, which came into play a few years back. So LEM derogation, we practically removed all the stale records for reverse DNS, those that will not delegate your request to a properly set, or a DNS server that is properly set, or even that is not active. So since this one came in, the policy itself exempted certain particular prefixes, especially those that are categorized as legacy resources. But then moving forward, we've noticed that over time, these records have maintained to be stale. It's like simply, it just shows that they are dead zones. The zones are not there anymore. So for a continuous time of period, something that has not been up for over 10, 15 years. So it's another consideration to say, why maintain LM delegation when practically it has shown that it's never been up for 10 years. And in any case, if it comes back up, it will definitely have particular name servers or something like that. So in reality, these are other things also that a policy, because this was part of the policy, it can be looked at and be revised to say, maybe let's just make the delegations a bit more effective. So let's focus on those that are active, and then we maintain those kind of records in our DNS system. So I'll move on and now just speak about some of the conflicting text and how they also become challenging, especially for people who are reading the policy manual for the first time. So for instance, 5461 speaks about need for 90%. This policy came in around 2018. But then before that, the policy text in 5.5141 spoke about 80%. So within that particular change, it was never clearly stated that there was a proper deprecation of one section for the other. And also, to us to make that particular change could also introduce certain unforeseen elements, because 5.25141 has more information than what the new one contains. So there is need for that kind of alignment for the RPD to consider so that it becomes easier for us. Right now, we have to explain this, but it also delays the process, because if I'm a new person and I want to make a request, I need to just read one and not get confused and sought additional support. A similar thing also happens between 5.5121, which speaks about the minimum allocation for local internet registries. So this particular one also comes in counter with the 5432, which now speaks of a /24, which is the new one, the new active section. So we need this kind of sections to be aligned and make sure that this kind of challenges are clear and do not introduce misunderstandings from the community. So at this moment, this brings me to the end of these challenges that I had to demonstrate with the RP, with everybody here, and also put it forward that it should also trigger some of the questions to those new and old in the RPD, because it is important to consider this kind of challenges and then bring them up for activists. Everything has to go through the process of the RPD. So, but then this just serves as a trigger into the thought process to say, oh, there are problems that needs to be resolved. So where do we start? How can we handle them? But in reality, as head of the service department, this is those challenges I would wish the resource policy development working group should put into their thought, and also look at getting a solution to this kind of ambiguities and challenges. So thank you all for your attention. Willie, back to you.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your presentation. For the audience here, if you want to know where you can start, what proposal you can have, I think James just presented to you some of the challenges they are experiencing, and you know at least where you can start if you want a problem statement or things like that to discuss. Before we continue, we have a poll for you. You know, RPT is based on discussion, and we are using a specific mailing list. So quick question for you is to kindly confirm if you are subscribed to any of the RPT mailing list. So you can just say yes or no if you are already in our mailing list, because as all the panelists so far explained to you, discussed with you, every discussion, everything happened first in our RPZ mailing list. So our question for you is, are you subscribed to the mailing list? So you can just say yes or no if you are in the mailing list. Just give you like 10 seconds. Let us know if you are subscribed to our RPG mailing list. And as I will emphasize again that all the discussion happen in the mailing list. You can even check the archives and see what was discussed so far back in 2004. So actually today is like 20 years, right? 2024. Okay, I think we can close for that one. Just for you to know that from the audience, we have 50-50. So some are subscribed, some have not subscribed. So half of the audience here. The good thing is at least we have half of them. Then the remaining, we can encourage you to subscribe. Or if you don't want to subscribe right now, at least the minimum you can do is you can check the archives, and at least you can have an overview. You can start in 2004, you pick then another year, and you will know exactly, and you will know what was discussed so far. Thank you so much. We'll continue with Bryce. Bryce will also then present to us what the stakeholder engagement are doing on the site regarding the RPZ. Good afternoon, Bryce.
Yes, from here it's a good morning, but good afternoon.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
morning. Yeah.
Yes, really, I'm going to share to the participants how we can be active on the mailing list. As you just said, as stakeholder development manager, I'm working with Madvi and the policy liaison team. And that was the first question. The poll was my first question because we need to start somewhere. And we spoke about many things, my colleagues and Itam, Sheun, and Darwin spoke about the policy, the stakes, etc., etc. But if you want to be aware, if you want to be part of the game, you must be on the mailing list. So this is why that was my first question, the poll, and I'm happy that was planned. And my colleague have just shared on the chat the link to register to the mailing list. How you can be active on the community, you need first of all to register to the mailing list. That's the entry point. If you're not on the mailing list, you can see all those discussions that we are having. And if you're not on the mailing list, you can even read. You can even know where you get those information. We are talking about, we spoke about CPM. What is the CPM? We're talking about PPM. What is the PPM? So all those short names, if you are not part of this list, you won't be able to get them. We get the definition. So I know that we have a lot of definitions. If you are, I know that my colleagues were giving their the significance by presenting, but don't hesitate to ask the question about what is the CPM, what is the PPM, what is the DPP, etc. All those things we can have it. So when you are on the list, on the APD mailing list, you are going to receive emails from the community member, the members of this list. And as Seun said earlier on, those emails can be like, some of them can be rude. So it's like oh, I don't want to be on this list. But you have to understand that that is one of the thing that we as policy liaison and the coaches are trying to fix. We want to make this working group a peaceful place where people are happy to join, where people are happy to contribute. So when you are going to be on the list, what the first advice for you is to go on the archive, because you can receive many email related to different topics that you may not be aware of, or that you wanted to contribute, want to ask question, or you want to say something, but maybe what you want to say have been said like 2 weeks ago. Maybe what you want to add or want to complain about have been fixed like 3 weeks ago. So when you're on the mailing list, when you register on the mailing list, the next step is for you to go to the archive and read the discussion per topic. You see, I like this proposal, this policy proposal. I want to know more about it. This policy proposal has an impact in my organization. This policy proposal has an impact on my community. So let me go and see more. So you have to go back to the archive and discuss and read before comment and do your comment. And you also have as we are going to, on the next slide, we are going to present you how a policy proposal is, because we are talking about policy proposals here. So we have a problem that we encounter, we can see as policy, as internet service provider or as internet user, and this can be a problem that you want to address. And if you want to address the problem, you may follow some rules. You may follow. You have to follow, those guidelines, those steps that we want to we put in place for the community to be able to propose those policy. And we also spoke about Manvi spoke about the policy development process. That is the guideline that we are using to discuss and to propose, okay, a policy to our community members. So also on the AFRINIC webpage, we can see also the proposal, those guidelines that are helping the community members to propose something that they want to change or to amend an existing policy. For instance, we had SN, the policy that was guiding the way that AFRINIC was assigning autonomy system numbers, and based on the assessment that the member service did during, during receiving requests from our members to get autonomy system numbers, we realized that the former policy was not in line with what the community or what the internet community was doing. In the past, for instance, we must justify that you have 2 AppSim providers for you to be able to have one autonomy system number. And it was very complicated for most of our many members, because with only one AppSim provider, they were requesting the member to create objects in the system that needs autonomy system numbers. So we explained it to the community, and the community managed to do a new proposal where it's the need for autonomy system number. If you want to have an autonomy system number, you just have to provide that you have only one AppSim provider. So what James just said is also to present the different the problems that we're having at AFRINIC while or running or one executing those policies that have been adopted by the community. And this is for you an opportunity to go through what James said and see how you can take what you can do. If there is need to refine the policy, or you just need to create a new policy, that is going to be very helpful for not only for AFRINIC, but for the members and for the African community at large, as internet is using in Africa and above. And the second, and I'm going to end here by giving some templates, what we are calling template of the policy proposal, that are the elements that are in the proposal, what we are calling a draft policy proposal, DPP. So as I just said, you cannot come like this and say, okay, I want to write something, from crash. You have to read what you have. You have to look at what you are doing at the office, at internet service provider, as internet user, and see, okay, this is a problem that I think that the community can address. And based on that, you can submit your proposal. The first thing is the problem. The problem you want to address with your proposal. You have to make it clear. I want to address this particular problem. I want to address this particular problem. You have to be clear. And then the how. The second part of the policy is the how. You say that, okay, I want AFRINIC, for instance, to share all the remaining IPs. And for you, the problem is that, okay, big countries are getting IPs, small countries are getting smaller IPs, etc., etc. So I want to something very fair. Okay, this, something like that. It's an example. It's not a good one, but it's an example. So you decide AFRINIC is going to share all the remaining IPs to each country, right? So you said the problem is that we want all those IP to be shared fairness, equitably of the countries. So the second thing is how you want AFRINIC to do that. So AFRINIC is going to the how is, okay, to address this problem, AFRINIC need to count the countries. We have AFRINIC is covering like 55 countries, and AFRINIC is going to share the remaining IP among those 5 countries, regardless the number of people in this policy, etc., etc. And the first part is the problem. The problem you have to express. This is the problem, as I just said. Now, the how. This is how we are going to fix that. And then when your solution is proposed, you have to now send it to the community. And then the community is going to ask questions. For this particular proposal I just did, the community is going to ask questions like, what about Nigeria compared to Mauritius? What about Egypt compared to Mauritius? What about like, you know, Ethiopia compared to Cote d'Ivoire? Why do you want
So you'll be challenged by
Yes,
the
exactly.
community.
Exactly. The community is going to ask you a lot of questions. And what you are going to do is, as community member or as policy author, you are going to answer the question. You can also realize that some of the inputs by the community makes sense. And you say, okay, you're right. So maybe you are going to have like some percentage that is going to consider the population, etc., etc. So this is how the thing is moving. And as a member of the list, what you are going to do is to also tell if you like this policy as it is. You have to tell if you don't like this policy as it is and why you don't like it. Because you cannot go, I don't like the policy, this is it. You have to tell the reason why you don't like the policy. You also have to, you can ask community member, you can say, okay, I don't like this policy as it is, but if the author can do this, can insert this different, you know, can modify this line, can insert this, I think I will be okay with this proposal. So this is how we discuss on the policy. We don't say no for a sake, because we want to say no, but we say no, we say the reason why we say no. When we say yes, we say the reason why we support this policy. When we don't support this policy, but we can support this policy with some modification. You have to tell it as well on the mailing list. So this is basically how we can participate to this working group. So remember that the first thing is to subscribe to the list. Second thing is to go read the archive to have enough information about the policy that you want, where you want to contribute to. And the second part is to tell if you like the policy as it is, if you don't like this policy, why you don't like it. If you don't like this policy as it is, but you must support this policy with some, you know, different modification, you are free to do that as well. So I'll stop here, Willie. I hope that it was informative for everybody. So it's now for you to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. And I hope, first of all, I hope that when I say you'll be challenged, people were not afraid, okay? Even though you can be challenged, it's also a good thing. It's an exercise. For those of you who remember, even when they were at school, or even if you are still at school, you are sometimes challenged when you do your presentation, but in a good way, I would say, because it's always good to receive critics and feedback so that you can improve or you can adjust what you were thinking when you just initiate the process. Thank you for that presentation regarding how the community can participate. Brice, if you can, just a quick one for you. You already mentioned you talk about the advice, but regarding the stakeholder, how do you contribute to promoting stakeholder engagement and participation, AFRINIC policy refinement efforts?
Yes, thank you, Willie. This is a good question because I'm here wearing two hats. The first one is stakeholder development manager, and the second one is member of policy liaison team with MADVI. And with my first hat and combining my second one, when we are meeting the community, what we want them to understand is the importance of internet. We want us to realize how internet is important. When they know that, then they see that internet is important. We want them to understand the need of IP addresses in this internet. That is important for the business. That is important for the country. That is important for them as, you know, as internet user. When they get why it's important to have IP address, because without IP address, we cannot be connected to the internet. Now they are like open to, you know, to learn more. And Item was discussing about the implication of governments, and when we meet government people, we are not in the same ecosystem. Governments are used to top-down system. Government are used to top-down system. Government, when we meet government, they say yes, but we never receive invitation. So you see. Yes, but you need to send the letter. You need to. So the ecosystem is different, And stakeholder engagement, we managed to fix that by create a group that is can discuss directly with governments, because we understand the way they are working. And we can't say the same, because AFRINIC is top down, is bottom up. AFRINIC is bottom up, the community is bottom up, so it's not the same. So they want us to have them in safe place. Let me put it that way, to discuss and help them to understand that even though you are used to the top down approach, understand that because internet is open, you have to learn how to participate in this internet. You have to come and expose what you want. You have to come and express your fears, express your what your expectations. If you don't do that as government, you are going to still remain in your side. And the other factor where we don't have government in our meeting is, as I said, because we don't send them later. Government is not going to come like this. Item as government representative is not going to connect to AFRINIC website, say I'm coming, and it will come. It doesn't work like this for governments. So this is why we managed to address like this. Okay, for government, we managed to send them invitation so that they can come. And it's true that we need to create awareness. They don't know about AFRINIC. AFRINIC is this small technical organization that deal with internet service providers, that deal with telcos, and this is it. So, and when we come, when we leave the HQ and come to visit members, James can tell when he was visiting members in Malawi, they were like, okay, now you are back. Now you are okay. Now these people that they are the face behind the names, etc., etc. So we also have another initiative that we are called Macy Meet Community Member Initiatives, where we are targeting people that were in our community for a long time, and we want to discuss like face to face with them. And the idea with this initiative was for them to tell us how they think we can improve, how they think we can change, what are the things that can change, and so on. So these one of the things that we are doing, so for the government, for the community at large. And remember that AFRINIC has like members, resource members, and community, and sometimes we have to find a way for those two community to be on the same table. And yeah, so these are some initiative and that we are doing to ensure that.
Thank you, Bryce. I just want also to repeat one question we had in the Q&A from Mohammed. I will repeat the question and also answer provided by Matthew. Mohammed was asking DS wanna know IPv4 availability status, and if we want new subnet, who should we contact, and to know what is available. So Madvi just replied and said that AFRINIC still have IPv4 resource. That's important to be aware of in its pool, to be allocated to those organizations that can demonstrate the IP needs. That's why we are talking about the policies today. And we have a platform that you can use when you want to submit your request. And we also have a page where you can find live statistics regarding the IPv4, not just IPv4, but all the internet resources available as at now. So you can check that page. That is stats.afrinic.net, and you'll find the current situation of each internet resource we have in our pool and their current status. So thank you for that. I remind everyone again to send your question in the Q&A if you have any questions regarding whatever were just presented today. Don't hesitate to use the Q&A. And okay, I'll have one open question. We talk about today the policies, how people can participate, and I just want to know, so is it possible today for anyone to participate in the mailing list, the resource policy mailing list? Manji?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again, Willie?
Yes, my question was, okay, we talk about the policies, how people can participate to the RPD. So my question is, as of today, can anyone participate, contribute to the resource policy discussion mailing list?
Yes. So the way we've implemented the policy development process is that the RPD mailing list is open to anyone. So anyone, whether in the individual capacity or if they are a representative of a resource member or a government or a university, they can subscribe to the mailing list and participate in the discussions. Okay, all that we require is that, yes, the discussions need to adhere to the AFRINIC Code of Conduct and be focused on resource policies.
Okay, thank you. I hope all of you then understand that it's possible as of today. So we have a couple of questions in the Q&A, but let me just summarize a little bit. So for Miss Femi, so she has some concerns regarding membership. But my main advice regarding when I read the question, my main advice is she mentioned that, okay, she wants change regarding the fees and yes, the structure. So as a member, even as a community member, you have to be aware that you can change or you can suggest changes. We are talking today about the resource policies. And I think my colleagues and even people from the communities, Darwin, Sean, and Item can relate. One way to change anything you see maybe that needs to be addressed is, of course, to address either a policy or also sometimes also for the members other way. But it's something you can change and you have the proper channels that you can use. If anyone can want to contribute or add more on that one.
Yes, Willie,
Yes,
if I may.
James. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think the key aspect we can put in here is the engagement part, whether it's as a community member or as a resource policy discussion forum working group member. I think members and community has to take the initiative to engage with AFRINIC. I'm looking at it from the problem that has been presented here. It has to be known that AFRINIC is a bottom-up approach. This is being mentioned to the operation team, but guess what? It is for a member to bring in the problem to the community for discussion. And then that kind of discussion would see a better way forward, because this is how the mechanism is supposed to work, community-driven, right? So it's that part of engagement where now a community member has to bring it to other members to say, oh, here's my challenge on the forum, or even let's say when we have the face-to-face meeting, bring that kind of challenge is discussed, and then a way forward is found across the conversation of the members. And then after that, it is taken away, because at the end of the day, it's not a top-down approach where staff will have to make those changes, but it has to be driven by the members and the community to find a better pricing model to suit their needs. So I think it is important to state it here that each member or each community member, as well as resource member, have that, it is within their power to initiate that conversation with the other members of the community and find a way forward, not expecting a solution top down. I think that will reverse the mechanism in a way, but it is important to note that the mechanism is actually supposed to work bottom up, community discuss, and then it comes up, and if adopted, the directors or the board at any time where it's there, they will take a decision of implementing the appropriate mechanism. I think it is important to take note of that. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we are almost at the end. Of course, if you have any other question, comment, don't hesitate to use the Q&A. So I will then also, okay. I will then also ask, I see Mrs. Fumi has another question. Do you suggest that? No, okay. So let me know, Mr. Fumi, from what my colleague James just said is you have some channels that you can use, and you can use that channels to raise the discussion amongst the communities. So one of them is our mailing list that you can use the resource policy discussion if you say that, okay, there are room for improvement. So don't hesitate to use the mailing list so that you and other people can then see what will be the better way to address, because the staff themselves will not just change things like that. So they have to follow the rules, the policies that are in place, and the policies in place are suggested by the community. So yes, Madvi.
Yes, hi. So looking at the questions of Mrs. Funmi, and I just want to bring a clarification. If the policy is preventing anyone, the current policies as written in the CPM are preventing resource members of getting resources, or other organizations from getting resources, if they're blocked by policy, then the way forward would be try and discuss the problem statement around these resource policies on the RPD mailing list. Now, if members have questions about the fees, or they want AFRINIC to review the allocation fees or the annual membership fees, then they need to use another channel, which could be the members discuss mailing list, or perhaps at the next annual general members meeting. So because the fees that we are applying now, the fees fund the AFRINIC operations. So it's the AFRINIC board who will usually they would consider different factors before providing perhaps a revision of the fees to the membership, etc. So that's another process altogether. So we shouldn't be mixing the fees with the resources, especially on the RPD mailing list. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
about, to summarize, anything about fixing resource policies, use RPD mailing list. Members have another avenue of discussing the applicable fees once their resource requests have been approved, or the annual membership fees. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Madvi. I hope it was clear enough.
May I?
Yes, I can.
Willie, may I add something for the last question? If you can read the AFRINIC bylaws or AFRINIC constitution, you can find different ways and to raise any issue, and you can find a section for the power of members. So you can know by reading the AFRINIC bylaw or AFRINIC constitution, you can know how to raise different issues. For as Matthew said, for policies, you can go for RBD list, mailing list. For something related to membership fees and other things, you can go to member discuss, and community discuss mailing list is stopped right now. But anyway, you can find different ways to raise your issue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Aitan, for
Willie,
your
if I
comment.
may,
Yes, boss. Go
I
ahead.
think that Darwin has responded to the question, but I will make it clear. During my presentation, I never said that AFRINIC is running a top-down approach. I was doing a comparison with government regarding what is the system that AFRINIC is using, and the five areas are using. It's bottom up. The community members are the one decided what are the rules that we are going to use to issue IP numbers. This is it. So I was talking about governments. Governments are using top-down approach. So when you are explaining governments that they are going to be in the system where the community, where the population is going to decide, they're a bit confused about how the system is working. So that was an example why the government have to be dealt different way, compared to their community. So I hope it's clear. Governments top down, AFRINIC bottom up, like the all areas. So this is what I wanted to clarify. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Bryce. And again, that was a question raised in the Q&A, and Darwin typed an answer, and Bryce just explained live exactly what you should understand about that one. Okay, I will then ask the last question to our panelists or guest panelists here. I will start with Sean. What can be better for you? How do you see the AFRINIC PDP in 6 years? That would be 2030.
Okay, thank you. How do I see AFRINIC PDP in 2030? Well, I see AFRINIC PDP having new people. New blood, not the usual suspects. If people who have been on the AFRINIC RPD list, I think staff can provide the data of how many we have on the list right now. But I think at least it should be less. It should be more than 500, if not more. And those that actually speak, maybe they are not probably not more than 20, which are actually people that write policies and speak more on the mailing list. Maybe I'm being maybe I should say 50, not more than 50. So I think I would like to 2020, 2030, come 2030, I'd like to see
Yes, Sean.
on the mailing list to, of course, more new people authoring policies, and of course, I will be very, very happy to see AFRINIC RPD evolve and become much more popular. And let's start worrying about how to even get how to manage with the several policies that we are having. Because right now we are at a stage whereby we need more improvement, more people to come up. I think 2020, 2030, I hope that we'll have more improved RPD discussion where people discuss policy alone, and it's not focused on infighting. It's not focused on personal interest. Of course, we all have interests. The interest should be for the common good of the community, and the interest should be for the development of internet in the region, which is the major focus of AFRINIC. And I look forward to the members of the RPD providing policies that will actually help AFRINIC to improve internet development in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Now, next, same question to Itam. What can be better for you? How do you see the PDP in 6 years?
Okay, thank you, Willie. Well, for the policy development process itself, I like it to be developed to include different ways to ratify the policy proposals that reach consensus. To avoid the current situation of no quorum. For example, we can have different layers. If there is quorum board, then the board ratify. We don't have a quorum of the board, so Council of Elders can ratify. If there is no Council of Elders, so the CEO can ratify. There is no CEO, so the community itself can ratify the policy once it reaches consensus, and the assessment report from the AFRINIC team has no issue against this policy. So if we have layers or have different ways, one by one, it will help more for policy development process. Another thing is, as Sean said, I hope or I like to see more professional discussion for more professional discussion for the policy proposal to reach a decision fast regarding any policy proposal in a short time. And last but not the least is I dream of an artificial intelligence or AI tool that any policy user can use to help him automatically highlight the parts or items in the consolidated policy manual (CPM) that will be affected by the proposed policy. It will be very good for any policy user. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Aitan. Now we end with Darwin. Same question for you. What can be better? How do you see the PDP in 2030?
Well, the good thing of being the last one is I can say I do agree with my fellow panelists. But no, in a nutshell, I think we touched very critical points today, which was the initial intention of this webinar. I really hope that we can all together create more awareness on AFRINIC itself and what we do as a RRR. And eventually, I think the team is also being very busy in doing that. I think Bryce and others have been doing capacity buildings, which I think it's very critical. I mean, we are in a continent where we speak different languages. And if we can accommodate those capacity buildings, obviously we cannot tackle each and every language. But if we could, at least try to be better perceived or create better awareness to the local community, I think we should do that, because currently, like you also really mentioned and Aitam also mentioned, we are kind of very in a slow mode, because there is not much happening, and one of the things we, together with the PLT, the coaches and the PLT want to do actually is to bring more activities and more awareness within what we do on our daily basis, and how can we have policy proposals gathered and issued on a proper manner. I mean, Aitan mentioned the artificial intelligence. Maybe this will become a reality or not, but let's see.
Okay, thank you so much for all the panelists. I also just add in that one that I also encourage the panelists, Aitam, Sean, to mentor new authors. If you can help some people to then give them some push so that they have the courage to initiate some policy proposal. So thank you so much. Our next webinar, so you have to stay tuned, because our next webinar is titled Understanding the Impact of the AFRINIC Resource Policies. And that is the second part of this webinar, and it will take place on the 9th May 2024 at 9 UTC. That is the next week. This webinar will explore the impact of implemented resource policies that were developed using the bottom-up principle by AFRINIC community, and provide a comprehensive overview of key policies implementation and their ramification, shedding light on critical areas such as the IPv4 uptake, the IPv6 renumbering, ASN uptake, the reverse DNS compliance, the LAME delegation, with the IXP resource reservation, the resource transfer, any CAS assignment, IPv6 announcement period, and the community stance on addressing policies problem statements. At the end of this webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen. The only thing we are ever going to ask you is to fill in the survey to help us make your experience in the AFRINIC webinars even better. It would be nice to get a rating from you. Please spare a minute or two to complete the survey. Thank you for joining us in this webinar, and we look forward to having you in our subsequent webinars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Willie.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.